In classic Hollywood, acting was an art, but sometimes, it wasn't acting at all. Flushed face from intense passion scenes to shocking emotional moments, some stars went too real. Let's uncover 8 classic Hollywood stars whose scenes were not acted, they were real. Marlon Brando and Maria Schneider, Last Tango in Paris, 1972. This film became one of the most controversial movies in cinema history, and for a shocking reason. During the infamous butter scene, actress Maria Schneider later revealed she had not been fully told what was about to happen. Director Bernardo Bertolucci and Marlon Brando had planned the scene without informing her in detail, hoping to capture a real reaction. What resulted wasn't just acting, it was genuine discomfort and shock on Maria's face. Brando's intensity blurred the line between performance and reality, and the scene left Schneider emotionally traumatized for years. When the truth came out, it sparked outrage, changing how audiences viewed both Brando and the film. Even decades later, this moment remains a haunting reminder of how far Hollywood once went in the name of authenticity, turning a scene of performance into one of pain that was tragically not acted. Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh, Gone with the Wind, 1939. The chemistry between Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh was electric, but during filming, not everything was just movie magic. In the famous kissing scene between Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara, Gable's passionate intensity shocked Leigh. She later confessed that his forceful embrace and the deep, breath-stealing kiss left her dizzy and shaken for real. The camera captured her genuine surprise and tension, emotions that perfectly fit her character's turmoil. Behind the scenes, Vivien often found Gable charming yet overwhelming, and that real conflict translated beautifully on screen. The scene became one of Hollywood's most iconic moments, but few knew that Vivien's reactions weren't rehearsed, they were real. What audiences saw was not a carefully acted romantic moment, but the raw spark of two powerful stars caught between character and reality, making the scene unforgettable in Hollywood history. Marilyn Monroe, The Misfits, 1961. The Misfits wasn't just another movie for Marilyn Monroe, it was a mirror of her troubled real life. During filming, Marilyn was struggling with depression, insomnia, and a failing marriage to Arthur Miller, who actually wrote the film. In several emotional scenes, especially where her character breaks down and cries, those tears weren't acting, they were heartbreakingly real. Monroe poured her pain, loneliness, and exhaustion into every frame, turning her suffering into art. Co-star Clark Gable and the crew later admitted that watching her perform felt almost intrusive, as if they were witnessing her soul unravel on screen. Tragically, The Misfits became Monroe's final completed film before her death the next year. What audiences saw wasn't a performance, it was the real Marilyn, vulnerable and broken, leaving behind one of the most hauntingly genuine moments in classic Hollywood history. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? 1966. This film blurred the line between fiction and reality more than any other. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, married in real life, played a couple locked in constant fights, but their on-screen battles were fueled by their real off-screen drama. The two were known for their fiery relationship, full of love, jealousy, and explosive arguments. Director Mike Nichols encouraged them to use those real emotions during filming, and the result was raw, painful, and shockingly authentic. When Taylor screamed, cried, or hurled insults, it wasn't just Martha speaking, it was Elizabeth releasing years of personal anger and heartbreak. Burton's equally intense reactions weren't rehearsed either, they were real responses to his wife's fury. Critics later called it one of the most brutally honest performances in cinema. Taylor even won an Oscar, for a role that was less acting and more emotional truth caught on film. Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor, A Place in the Sun, 1951. The chemistry between Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor was undeniable, and it went far beyond the script. During filming, Clift was deeply captivated by Taylor's beauty and warmth, though he was privately struggling with his own identity and emotional battles. Their scenes together glowed with real tenderness and longing. In the famous lake scene and the intimate moments between their characters, Clift's eyes told a truth that acting alone couldn't capture. Taylor later confessed that she adored Monty deeply, calling him her soulmate. Their emotional bond off-camera made every glance and touch on-screen feel authentic and heartbreakingly real. When Clift's character looked at her with love and pain, it wasn't just acting, it was his genuine affection shining through. The connection between them turned A Place in the Sun into one of Hollywood's most emotionally charged romances, built on real feelings, not just performance. Shelley Winters, Lolita, 1962. Shelley Winters' role in Lolita pushed her into some of the most emotionally intense scenes of her career. Playing Charlotte Hayes, the delusional and desperate mother, Shelley had to endure moments of humiliation, rejection, and rage. But what many didn't know was that much of that raw emotion was real. Director Stanley Kubrick was known for his demanding, perfectionist style. He often pushed actors to their breaking point to get authentic reactions. During one heated argument scene, Shelley reportedly burst into tears for real, feeling genuinely embarrassed and exhausted. Her trembling voice and pained expressions weren't rehearsed, they came from deep frustration and emotional strain on set. Those moments gave the film its unsettling realism. You could feel her character's heartbreak because it wasn't acted. Shelley later admitted the role took a toll on her mentally, proving how far classic Hollywood pushed actors to deliver truth on camera. James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. James Dean's performance in Rebel Without a Cause wasn't just acting, it was a reflection of his real-life pain. Dean grew up with a distant father and carried deep emotional wounds from a troubled childhood. When he shouted, cried, or showed frustration in the film, those emotions came straight from his own experiences. In the famous "You're Tearing Me Apart" scene, his anger and heartbreak weren't scripted reactions, they were James reliving his past. Director Nicholas Ray later revealed that Dean often improvised, channeling his own memories to make the character of Jim Stark feel painfully real. Co-stars even said they sometimes felt uncomfortable watching him because it was like seeing a man break open on screen. That's why Dean's performance still resonates today. It wasn't method acting, it was raw, personal truth that turned him into a timeless legend of emotional realism. Ingrid Bergman, Casablanca, 1942. The emotional depth in Casablanca's final scene wasn't just brilliant acting, it was pure, unscripted emotion. Ingrid Bergman, who played Ilsa Lund, had no idea until the very last moment which man her character would end up with, Rick or Laszlo. Director Michael Curtiz intentionally kept her in the dark so her expressions would look genuinely uncertain and heartbroken. When she stands at the airport, tears in her eyes, saying goodbye to Humphrey Bogart, that confusion and sorrow were completely real. Bergman's emotions were a mix of surprise, loss, and admiration, exactly what the scene demanded, but naturally felt. The result became one of cinema's most iconic goodbyes. Audiences believed every tear, every glance, because they weren't scripted. Ingrid's honesty in that moment captured the essence of real heartbreak, making Casablanca immortal and proving that sometimes, the best performances aren't acted at all. Janet Leigh, Psycho, 1960. That chilling scream in Psycho's shower scene wasn't acting. Alfred Hitchcock didn't tell Janet Leigh exactly when the killer would strike or how violently the fake knife would come toward her. When the attack began, her reaction, the panic, the trembling, the sheer terror, was completely real. Leigh later said she was so shaken she avoided taking showers for months afterward. The cold water, bright lights, and shrieking music made the moment feel genuinely life-threatening. Hitchcock's manipulation of surprise gave the movie one of the most iconic, authentic moments in horror history. What audiences saw was not just a scream queen performing, but a woman genuinely terrified. Burt Lancaster and Deborah Kerr, From Here to Eternity, 1953. One of the most iconic love scenes in film history, the passionate beach kiss, wasn't entirely scripted. Director Fred Zinnemann wanted something raw and real, so instead of rehearsing, he simply told Burt Lancaster and Deborah Kerr to let the waves and moment guide you. What happened next became legendary. As the tide crashed over them, the two stars embraced naturally, creating a spontaneous chemistry that burned through the screen. Lancaster's firm grip and Kerr's genuine laughter mixed with surprise made the scene feel completely authentic. Deborah later admitted that Bert's passion left her genuinely breathless and blushing, while Bert called it one of his most honest performances ever. That unplanned spontaneity turned a simple romantic moment into pure movie magic, not just acted passion, but real connection caught forever on film. It remains one of classic Hollywood's most unforgettable, real moments. Al Pacino, The Godfather, 1972. Though technically beyond Hollywood's golden age, The Godfather captured the same raw realism that defined its era. In the famous restaurant assassination scene, Al Pacino wasn't acting when his hands trembled and sweat glistened on his face, it was completely real. Director Francis Ford Coppola designed the moment to build unbearable tension, keeping Pacino in character for hours before filming. The heat from the lights, the silence before the gunfire, and the pressure of the scene made him genuinely anxious. When the time came to pull the trigger, his heartbeat was racing, and his shaking hands were pure adrenaline. The result was a perfect portrayal of Michael Corleone's transformation from hesitant son to cold-blooded mob leader. Pacino later revealed that he didn't perform fear, he felt it. That raw authenticity made the scene unforgettable, blurring the line between acting and reality in cinematic history. Vivien Leigh, A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951. Vivien Leigh's haunting portrayal of Blanche DuBois in A Streetcar Named Desire is often praised as one of the most powerful performances in film history, but few know how painfully real it was. Leigh was already battling mental and emotional struggles during filming, and the character's descent into madness mirrored her own fragile state. Director Elia Kazan and co-star Marlon Brando both noticed that her trembling hands, tearful eyes, and unstable emotions weren't acting, they were genuine. In one heartbreaking scene, when Blanche completely breaks down, Leigh's cries came from a place of real exhaustion and despair. Brando later said he felt guilty watching her unravel on camera because it was like witnessing a real breakdown. After filming ended, Leigh reportedly suffered from depression for months. What audiences saw wasn't just great acting, it was a woman truly living her pain through the character of Blanche DuBois.